back to the Drawing Show. Thanks for tuning in. Today we are going to talk about eyes. Have you ever drawn a portrait and you noticed something was a little bit off? And you thought maybe it had something to do with the eyes, but you weren't really quite sure. But actually, yeah, you are really quite sure, and it does have to do with the eyes. But you're not exactly sure what. We are going to talk about that. And I know that you have trouble with it because I have trouble with it. And so chances are you might also have trouble with it. Maybe you don't. But we're not going to talk about that today. One major thing that I've noticed when I sometimes have trouble with my eyes, drawing them, is them staying on the same level. Sometimes I'll get all the way through a drawing, I'll get done, and I'll just be like, man, what is going on? One eye is like way up here, and the other one is way down there, and it just drives me crazy. So as you could probably guess, there's a pretty simple solution to this. And it has to do with the beginning of the drawing. Before you start drawing the eyes, we need to try to keep things together and try to line things up properly. And that's going to help keep things like the eyes in the places where they're supposed to be, so that our finished portrait doesn't end up looking all wonky when we're done. So while I've been yapping away, I've been working on this head. I haven't started the eyes yet, but I'll hold on now. Now I am. So that line, I am going to try to keep that the same distance on both sides away up from the eyebrows. Now I'm doing this slight turned head, slight 3/4 angle, maybe not that drastic of a 3/4 angle, but the head is turned slightly. Because typically this will happen with a head that's turned like this, where one eye gets a little out of place, as we would say. Now, when the head is turned slightly this direction, there's a part of that side of the face, the face that's furthest away from us, that is slightly obscured by the nose, because the nose sticks out. So it's going to appear like that eye, the right eye as we're looking at it from this side, is closer to the edge of the nose than the left eye. So keep that in mind. But that face, that front of the face, is on the same plane. So it's not really going to wrap around that much. There is some wraparound that does happen with that right eye, but for the most part, both of the eyes are going to stay on that same level. So we want to try to keep them as close to that as possible. Especially because even and we've talked about this before, even the slightest change, the slightest difference can really throw things off, and you notice it way more than you would think that you would. So what I've done here is I've blocked in the eyes. These are obviously not our finished eyes, but they're going to help us to get a good shape, try to keep a similar size for those eyes, because that's another temptation. When you're drawing a face from a 3/4 angle, the temptation is to make the eye that's on the other side of the nose, so that right eye, to be way smaller than the left eye. Depending on the angle, there might be a slight difference. The right eye may appear to be slightly smaller due to perspective. As things get further away, they'll look a little bit smaller than they are. But not very drastically, and I mean it's pretty minuscule. So you really do have to be careful, unless you're getting stylized and that's what you want to do. That's fine. But if we want to try to make it a little bit more realistic looking, we're going to try to make those eyes pretty similar sizes. Now, eye shapes from different angles are going to be different. It's going to look slightly different. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your reference. The shape of the eye on either side and how they look slightly different. And it's going to take some practice before you kind of get the hang of it where it's going to look right, because it's not going to always look right. So don't get too upset. Just keep working at it. Keep looking, keep observing. So what are we doing when we're drawing? We are observing. If we're drawing from life, if we're drawing from a reference, a huge aspect of drawing is just deep, deep observation. So work on your observation skills. Look at things really closely, but also look at things pulled back. Try to get an idea of the full picture and be able to get close and look at the finer details. It all works together. If all you did was just work at the tiny details and you pull back, man, the thing could be a mess. If you only focus on the big general picture and you don't get into the closer details, it tends to get a little boring. So it all works together and should come together to make an interesting, maybe a realistic, maybe a more stylized, whatever you're drawing. Whether it's a figure, a portrait, a landscape, a tree, anything. It's about observation. Which is why it's important, I think, to not only draw from a photo reference, but draw from life. Find somebody that will sit for you, that you can observe. And do that before you start drawing. Walk around them, get close to them, study the different features of their face, study from different angles. What does the nose look like when I'm underneath it? I turn my head and get underneath their chin. What happens to the whole face? What happens to that portrait when I move around and look at it from different angles? And really pay attention to what's going on. And find those things that are interesting, that make you want to draw them. And drawing from life, you really get a better sense of form. You get a better sense of just everything all together, what it's doing. You can touch it. That helps a lot. Always ask permission before you touch somebody's face. But make sure to draw and have a good time doing it. And I hope this helped a little bit. Thanks for watching. Throw a like, throw a subscribe. I love you guys, and I'll see you later.